You buy them yellow on Monday. By Friday, they are covered in brown freckles. By the next Monday, they are soft, dark, and drawing fruit flies to your kitchen window. So you throw half the bunch in the compost the way you have thrown out half a bunch 100 times before. You tell yourself, that is just how bananas are. It is not how bananas are. In my home, a bunch of bananas can sit for a full month and still be firm enough to slice clean. Not mush, not brown paste, firm. We have done this for generations, long before the grocery store had a single light bulb over the produce. And here is the part that will sit crooked with you once you hear it. The men who ship those bananas to your store know exactly how to keep them from ripening. They control it down to the day. They just have no reason to share that with you, because a banana that spoils fast is a banana you buy again next week. Stay with me. Around the middle of this, I will show you exactly how to rescue a bunch that is already turning and hold a bunch fresh for weeks, for less than the price of a cup of coffee, the same way my grandfather held them in the springhouse. Before I go on, do me one small favor. Drop a note in the comments and tell me how fast your bananas turn on your counter. 3 days, 5 days, a week, and tell me what state you are in, because heat and humidity change everything. And I read every one of these. I remember the first time I ever saw a banana. I was a boy in Lancaster County, and they were not a thing we grew or a thing we saw often. My father brought a small bunch home from a trip to market in town, wrapped in brown paper, and my mother treated them like they were made of glass. She did not leave them out on the table where the sun came through the window. She carried them down the stone steps into the springhouse, where the water ran cold along the floor and the air stayed the same cool temperature all year. I did not understand why then. I understand it completely now. And by the end of this, so will you. Let me start with the thing almost nobody tells you. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Bananas are not spoiling on your counter. They are breathing. A banana is still alive after it is picked. It is still doing the slow work of a living thing, and the thing it is doing is ripening itself on purpose, using a gas it makes inside its own skin. That gas has a name. It is called ethylene. And it is the whole secret, the whole story, the whole reason you throw money in the trash every single week. Here is how it works, plain and simple. A banana, once it starts to ripen, gives off a small puff of ethylene gas. That gas is a signal. It tells the fruit, it is time, break down your starch into sugar, soften your flesh, turn your skin from green to yellow to brown. But here's the cruel little trick of it. That gas does not just signal one banana. It signals every banana next to it, and every apple, every pear, every tomato in the bowl. The ripening feeds on itself. One banana starting to turn will drag the whole bunch down with it, faster and faster, like a snowball rolling downhill. Now think about how you store them. You bring the whole bunch home, still joined at the top, and you set them on the counter or drop them in a fruit bowl right next to your apples. You could hardly design a better machine for spoiling fruit if you tried. All that gas, trapped, pooling, whispering to every piece of fruit around it to hurry up and rot. The English world figured this gas out in a laboratory. Back in the early 1900s, researchers noticed that fruit stored near a leaking gas lamp ripened faster, and by the 1930s the science was settled cold. They knew ethylene ripened fruit. They knew how much, at what temperature, at what speed. The big shipping companies took that knowledge and built entire rooms out of it. When a banana crosses the ocean to reach you, it does not arrive yellow. It arrives hard and green, picked weeks before, kept cold and quiet so it makes almost no gas at all. Then, just before it goes to your store, they roll it into a sealed room and they pump ethylene gas into the air on purpose to wake all those green bananas up at once on the exact day they choose. Read that again slowly. They can turn banana ripening on and off like a spigot. They have known how for the better part of 100 years. So, the question that ought to make you a little bit angry is this one. If they can hold a banana green and hard for a month in a warehouse, why does the one in your kitchen turn to mush in 5 days? The answer is not that your kitchen is cursed. The answer is that nobody ever handed you the simple part of what they know. My people never had a gas room or a laboratory, but we understood the same thing from the other direction, from living close to what we ate, and we controlled that same ripening with nothing but cool air, a little wrapping, and common sense. So let me give you the first thing you can do tonight before we go any deeper. Break the bunch apart. Do not store your bananas joined together at the crown. That green stem at the top, where all the bananas meet, is where the strongest puff of ethylene comes out. When they are all connected, that gas travels straight down through the whole bunch. Separate each banana, and you cut that shared signal. On its own, this one free thing buys you a day or two. But it is only the doorway. What you do to that stem next is where the real magic starts, and that is where most folks go wrong. Here is the part that changes everything, and it costs you almost nothing. Take a little bit of plastic wrap, or if you keep beeswax the way we do, a small wrap of wax cloth. Wrap it snug around the cut stem at the top of each banana, the little nub where it broke from the bunch. Cover it completely. That is it. That is the trick that sounds far too simple to matter, and it matters more than anything else you will do. Let me tell you why. Because the why is what makes you trust it. That stem is not just where the banana was attached. It is a wound. It is an open cut, and it is the busiest ethylene factory on the whole fruit. Most of the gas a banana breathes out comes rushing from that crown, right where it was cut. When you wrap it tight, you trap that gas at the source. You do not let it escape into the air and settle back onto the skin and speed the ripening along. You bottle it up right where it starts. The rest of the banana, the skin, the flesh, ripens far slower because it is no longer being bathed in its own gas. The people who study fruit for a living have measured this exact thing. Wrapping the crowns of bananas has been shown to slow ripening enough to add roughly 4 to 7 days of good, firm fruit compared to a bunch left bare. Some tests put it higher, and you can double the effect. Wrap the crowns and separate the bananas so each one is on its own, and you have cut the gas at the source and cut the gas between neighbors, both at once. Now you are no longer fighting the banana. You are working with how it actually behaves. Here is what to avoid, because folks hear this and go too far. Do not wrap the whole banana in plastic. The skin needs to breathe, and if you seal the entire fruit airtight, you trap moisture against it and invite mold and rot instead. Only the stem, only the crown, snug, not strangled. And when you peel one off to eat, rewrap the rest so the seal stays true. Now I already know the doubt forming in your mind because it is a fair one. You are thinking a few extra days is fine, but the title said a month. Wrapping the stem alone will not get you to a month. And you are right, it will not. Wrapping the stem is one wall of the house. It slows the gas, but there is a second force working against your bananas every single hour they sit out, and it is the one thing in your kitchen you never think about. It is not the gas, it is the warmth. And what my mother knew, carrying those bananas down the cold stone steps, is the very thing the shipping companies bank their whole fortune on. That is next, and it is the piece almost everybody gets exactly backward. Temperature is the throttle on the whole engine. Ethylene is the fuel, but warmth is the foot pressing the pedal. A banana sitting in a warm kitchen, 72, 75 degrees, is ripening at full speed. Every chemical change inside it runs faster when it is warm. Slow the warmth, and you slow every bit of that ripening at once. The softening, the browning, the sugaring, all of it. Now here is where nearly everyone goes wrong, and I do not blame them, because it is the most natural mistake in the world. You think, if cold slows it down, I will just put my bananas in the refrigerator. So you do, and the next morning you open the door and the whole peel has turned an ugly dark brown, almost black, and you think you have ruined them, and you swear off the idea forever. I have heard this from more people than I can count. Let me settle this for you, because it is one of the most useful things you will learn today. A cold refrigerator, down around 38 or 40 degrees, turns a banana peel brown fast. That is real. But it is a trick of the eye. The peel browning in the cold is not the fruit rotting. It is a harmless bruise-like reaction in the skin alone. The flesh inside stays firm, pale, sweet, and perfectly good. My grandfather would have laughed at a man who threw out a good banana because the outside looked homely. We were not raised to judge food by its dress. But here is the trouble, and it is why the refrigerator is not the full answer. If you put a green, unripe banana in a cold refrigerator, the cold shocks it. It never ripens right. It stays starchy and dull, and the skin goes dark without the inside ever getting sweet. That is called chilling injury, and there is a hard line where it happens. Below about 53 degrees, a green banana suffers. So the cold refrigerator is a tool, but only for the right banana at the right moment, and almost nobody knows the timing. Now, here is what my mother understood without ever reading a word of it in a book. There is a magic window of temperature, a cool that is not cold, not the warm kitchen that ripens too fast, not the freezing refrigerator that shocks a green banana, somewhere in between. That springhouse where she carried them held right around 55 to 58 degrees all year round because the groundwater kept it there. And that, it turns out, is almost exactly the temperature the great shipping companies keep their bananas at while they carry them across the whole ocean. Right around 56, 58 degrees, cool enough to nearly stop the ripening dead, warm enough that the banana takes no chilling harm at all. Sit with that for a moment. The temperature my mother found in a stone springhouse 100 years ago is the exact temperature a modern refrigerated cargo ship spends a fortune to hold. We were not guessing. We were not lucky. We were living inside the same truth they later spent millions to build machines around. The old way and the new science landed on the very same number because there is only one right answer, and the plain people found it first by paying attention. So the question becomes, how do you find 56 degrees in a modern house that does not have a spring house? Because your kitchen is too warm and your refrigerator is too cold and the sweet spot is sitting right in between, hidden somewhere in your own home? Most folks have 2 or 3 of these cool spots and never once thought to use them. Finding yours is worth more than any gadget the store will try to sell you, and I will show you exactly where to look and how the folks who already have a full kitchen and a settled home can put this to work this very weekend without buying a single thing. Let me speak now to those of you who have kept house for 40, 50 years, who have your ways already, your counter, your bowl, your routine. You might be thinking, this is all fine for somebody building a fresh kitchen, but you are set in yours and you do not want to rearrange your whole life for a banana. Good, you do not have to. This is for you, and you can do all of it this weekend with what you already own. Go walk through your own house and hunt for the cool spots. You have them. Nearly every home does. Think about an unheated back porch or a mud room, the kind of room that stays chilly through the fall. Think about a basement, which in most homes sits 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the main floor and holds steady. Think about the floor of a north-facing closet, an attached garage that does not freeze, a pantry against an outside wall, a cellar stairwell. Any of these, through much of the year, will sit right in that 55 to 60 degree window, or close enough to make a real difference. You do not need a thermometer to start, though a cheap one helps. You need only to notice where your house is cool but not cold. Now here is the routine, the whole thing put together, and I want you to be able to do it tonight. When you bring home a bunch, if they are still greenish or just barely yellow, break them apart. Wrap each crown snug, then carry them to your cool spot, that basement shelf or that chilly pantry, and lay them in a single layer where the air can move around them and nothing presses on them. Not the warm kitchen counter, not the cold refrigerator, the cool in between. There they will hold, barely changing, for a good long while, the way they held in my mother's spring house. Then, and this is the part that finishes the job, when a banana finally does ripen to the yellow you want to eat, that is the moment you move it to the refrigerator. Now it is ripe. Now the cold cannot hurt the flesh. It can only hold it right where it is. The peel will freckle and darken in there, yes, and you will ignore that because you now know it is only the coat, not the fruit. Inside it stays firm and sweet for another week, sometimes closer to 2. Cool storage to slow the green ones down. Cold storage to freeze the ripe ones in place. 2 rooms, 2 jobs. That is the whole rhythm, and it is how a single bunch stretches across a month instead of dying in 5 days. Think for a moment about how many bunches you have carried to the compost, half of them soft and dark, week after week, telling yourself that is just how food goes. It is not. This banana rhythm is one recovered method, and there is a whole shelf of them waiting for you in the author's digital collection, the Complete Garden Field Edition. Inside, you get every protocol laid out plain, a season-by-season yard rescue calendar, and quick reference field cards so you never guess again. One simple system, standalone, built for folks who would rather understand a thing and fix it than be sold a cure. And you can test the spirit of it for free tonight, right in your own kitchen. Separate one bunch, wrap each crown snug, carry them to the coolest corner of your house, and watch how much longer they hold than the bunch you left on the counter. If you like what you see, and want the rest of these old practical methods in one place, the fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. There is no rush and no clock ticking. The food you waste every single week is the only thing that is running out. Now, let me finish this banana rhythm, because there is still one more thing to say about the freezer. One more thing for the established kitchen, because I know some of you buy them already spotted and want them saved right now. Peel any banana that is going too soft, slice it, and lay the slices flat on a tray in the freezer. Once frozen hard, sweep them into a jar or a bag. They keep for months, and they are the finest thing you will ever drop into a morning smoothie or a loaf of bread, sweeter than the day you bought them. Not one banana in this house has ever been thrown away, because there is always a use for it further down the road. That is not thrift for its own sake. That is refusing to waste what was given to us to use. And still, we are not at the deepest part yet. Because everything I have told you so far, the wrapping, the cool spot, the cold for ripe fruit, all of it slows the ripening down. But there is one old method that does something different. It does not just slow the banana. It reaches into the fruit and it stops the browning almost cold, even on a banana you have already cut open and exposed to the air. It is the thing my grandmother used, and it is the thing the packaged, pre-cut fruit sellers quietly use today while charging you 3 times the price. That is next, and it is the piece I most did not want to see forgotten. Here is a puzzle that has bothered people forever. You cut a banana open, or an apple, and within minutes, the cut face turns brown and ugly. Why? What is happening in those few minutes? Once you know, you can stop it dead, and the answer costs you pennies. When you cut or bruise a banana, you break open its cells, and inside those cells are natural substances that meet the oxygen in the air. They react together, the way iron rusts, only far faster, and they form a brown stain right there on the surface. There is a helper in the fruit that speeds this rusting along, a natural agent that only works when the conditions are right. And here is the beautiful part. That helper only does its work in a narrow range. It hates acid. Make the surface of the banana even a little bit sour, a little more acidic, and that browning agent seizes up and quits. So what did my grandmother reach for? Nothing from a store shelf with a fancy label. She reached for a lemon, or for the plain jug of vinegar in the cupboard. A splash of lemon juice or a weak wash of vinegar water, brushed or dipped onto the cut face of the fruit, and the browning simply does not come. The acid shuts down the very agent that causes it. This is not folklore. It is the same chemistry the food companies use when they sell you a little plastic tub of pre-sliced apples or a fruit cup that stays bright yellow far longer than it has any right to. They dip that fruit in an acid and vitamin wash. You are paying a premium for a trick you can do at your own sink with a lemon you already have. Let me give you the exact way, because the amount matters. For a bowl of cut banana you want to keep bright, squeeze the juice of half a lemon into a cup of cold water and give the slices a quick dip or brush it on with your fingers. That is plenty. Too much and you taste the sour, too little and the browning creeps back. If you have no lemon, a spoonful of plain vinegar in a cup of water does the same job, and the faint tang cooks right out if you are baking with it. A pinch of this knowledge, and you never again serve a plate of homely brown fruit to company, and you never again toss cut fruit because it looked bad after an hour on the table. Now, I have handed you a whole toolbox. Separate the bunch, wrap the crowns. Find your cool spot near 56 degrees. Move the ripe ones to the cold. Freeze the extras. Wash the cut ones in acid. Any one of these alone will save you real money over a year, and stacked together, they are how a bunch lasts a month. But I promised you at the start that I had saved the best for last. The one method that ties all of this together, the recovered piece that the outside world truly forgot, while my people kept right on using it. Here it is. The great shipping companies have one final secret beyond the cold and the gas, and it is the oldest trick of all, older than their ships, older than their laboratories. Before the cold rooms, before the ethylene rooms, the men who moved fruit long distances knew that ripening is not only about temperature and gas, it is about the air itself. Specifically, how much oxygen the fruit can reach, and how much of its own gas stays trapped around it in balance. A banana starved of fresh oxygen and left to sit in a small, still pocket of its own slow breath nearly goes to sleep. Its ripening crawls almost to a stop. This is the very heart of what the industry calls controlled atmosphere storage, and they spend enormous sums sealing fruit in rooms where they lower the oxygen on purpose to hold it for months. My grandfather did the same thing with a clay crock and a damp cloth, and it cost him nothing. Here is the recovered method, and I want you to do it this weekend and watch what happens. Take your bananas, crowns already wrapped, and lay them in a large crock or a clean bucket or even a heavy cardboard box. Now surround them gently, so nothing presses hard, with something that holds cool and still air close, the way the old-timers packed root crops. A layer of clean, slightly damp sand or sawdust or even crumpled newspaper works. You are not burying them to smother them. You are nesting them in a still, cool, humid pocket where the air does not rush past and strip away every bit of moisture, and where their own slow breath settles around them and quiets them down. Set that crock in your cool spot, the basement or the chilly pantry. The damp packing keeps the skins from drying and shriveling. The still air slows the gas exchange. The cool holds the throttle down. All three of the forces we have talked about, gas, temperature, and now air itself, all working at once in one humble crock for the price of nothing. This is exactly how my grandmother's mother held delicate fruit and roots through a long Pennsylvania winter, long before a refrigerator existed anywhere in the county. Fruit packed in cool, damp sand in the cellar, checked and turned by hand, kept firm for months. The knowledge did not come from a book. It came down mouth to ear, hand to hand, mother to daughter, because to let good food spoil was a small sin against the work it took to get it, and against the good Lord who provided it. When the English world got its ships and its cold rooms, it did not invent a new truth. It built expensive machines to do what a clay crock and a handful of damp sand had already been doing for generations. And somewhere along the way, in the rush toward the new, the outside world set the old crock down and forgot it entirely. You do not have to forget it, you have it now. Wrapped crowns to cut the gas at the source, a cool spot near 56 degrees to hold the throttle down, the same temperature the cargo ships pay a fortune to keep. The cold refrigerator saved for the ripe ones only, once the peel browning cannot fool you anymore. A lemon wash to stop the cut fruit from rusting, the freezer for the extras, and the old crock of damp sand for the longest hold of all. Layer these the way I have shown you, and a bunch of bananas that used to die in 5 days will carry you clear through the month, firm and sweet to the last one. Think about what that is worth, quietly, over a year. A bunch a week thrown half away is money out the door every single time you shop, 52 times a year, year after year. It is not the banana that is the loss. It is the habit of the loss, the slow leak, nobody taught you how to plug, and it was never a hard thing to fix. It was only a thing kept quiet, because there is no profit for anyone and a customer whose fruit refuses to spoil. That is the part I want you to carry out of here. You have not just learned a trick for bananas. You have taken back a small piece of something that was slowly taken from you 1 week and one thrown out bunch at a time. Not by anyone wicked. Just by a whole way of doing things that profits when you buy twice as much and waste half of it, and has no reason on earth to tell you different. My people never lost this, because we never handed our kitchens over to be run by folks who sell us things. We kept close to our food, and our food kept faith with us. You are one of those people too. I can tell because you stayed to the end of a talk about bananas, which means you are the sort who would rather understand a thing and fix it for a penny than be sold a cure for $1. That is a good way to be. It is the way I was raised. And it is the way I suspect your own grandparents were raised, before the world got so quick to throw things out. So do the two things I asked. First, go back to the comments and tell me how fast your bananas turn on your counter. 3 days, 5, a week. And tell me what state you are in, because the folks reading along truly want to know how it goes in a hot climate against a cool one. And I answer as many as I can. Do not just think it, type it. It helps more people than you know, and it helps me know what to dig up next. And second, if you would like to keep recovering these plain old methods, the ones that were working long before the store shelves filled up, walk this road with us. This is not about following a channel. It is about a group of us quietly putting the old, practical knowledge back into our own hands where it belongs, one forgotten thing at a time. Next, I am going to show you the plain way we kept eggs fresh for months without a refrigerator, sitting right on a shelf, using one thing you already have in your kitchen. The same thing my grandmother rubbed on every egg before winter. It sounds impossible until you know why it works. And once you know, you will never look at a carton of eggs the same way again. Come find out with me. I will keep the light on. This video showed you why bananas turn, but the full springhouse method, bunch by bunch, held fresh a whole month, that's waiting inside the Amish field circle. In there, you can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself. In plain words, no machine. And you won't be alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, cancel anytime with one click, come join me. If this little trick helped you, do stay with me. Go ahead and subscribe, and look around here for more simple, gentle ways to keep your fruit fresh and your home pest-free.